So everyone, congratulations on investing your time today. I'm very happy that you could join Damien and myself. As always, today is fully about you. Please take notes. Any light bulbs that go off, scribble them down, drawings, doodles, anything that's going to make you remember what you are learning today. You will forget 97% of what we cover today unless you do write it down, and it's critical. And the other aspect of it is the action that you take outside of this webinar is what's going to basically create the changes that you're looking for. Just letting a couple of more people in. Damien, are you able to let people into the?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Can I leave that with you?
Sure thing.
Awesome. So what are we going to be covering today? We are covering how to find more hours in the day, the magical powers of creating more time mastery for all you practice owners. So it's going to be identifying what causes time chaos, the structure to build a business, powerful principles for you to use on how to prioritize work, a time management tool, highly effective, very powerful, and more importantly, the impact of time management on personal and business life and what it means to wear too many hats. So before we get into it, these webinars, as they've evolved over time with Damien and the others that I do, it's important to note that you use today and consider. Oh,
could you try again?
Siri's getting involved. Sorry, 1 second. What I was saying was that you use this particular webinar as almost like part one of your education on time management, let's say. And you take down the notes that you need to take and any light bulbs that go off and potential actions that you'd like to take. And at the end of the presentation, both Damien and myself will be offering you essentially a gifted hour of time to get either coaching or technical help with Synergy to work on your time management and to essentially deliver some of the solutions that we're going to be presenting you today. So if by the time we get to the event, you're serious about taking action, you're serious about learning and developing and making changes in your life, do take advantage of that basically secondary step of education to help you move forward and develop. For those of you who use Instagram and social media, this is my Instagram handle. I connect with a lot of people on Instagram who just send me notes and messages. I send them voice notes back just to help overcome some initial challenges or questions that they may face when trying to implement what we cover in these workshops. So as we get into it, for those of you who do not know me, who am I and what am I about? Why am I sitting here talking to you about time management? My name is Kuldeep Singh Sahota. Most people know me as Cooks, and I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've got 3 businesses and I'm a business coach. My primary business is my family business. We started in our garden shed making chili sauces. The business grew and scaled quite fast. We were on BBC TV, the radio, on the news. We were being interviewed, and we started supplying the supermarkets, so Tesco, Sainsbury's, Ocado, Selfridges, exporting out to South Africa, New York, and all over the world, really. It was a very fast-growing and exciting time in my life. Just before I started the family business, I also started a property development business with a friend of mine. We built 152 apartments. Having no experience of doing that before, I was responsible for the brand, the marketing, the sales. I sold out that business to start my family business. And what you see on the right-hand side is my dad, my brother, and me laying on the floor, covered in the hottest chilies in the world for, I believe this was the Telegraph. And the reason I'm sharing this particular story with you about my family business is that as exciting as it was, it got to a point where I actually ended up almost hating the work that I was doing because I didn't actually realize I'd created myself a job. I'd created myself a job and it wasn't really a business because if I didn't work, I didn't get paid and the business was solely reliant on me. And in particular, when it came to time, I was extremely time poor. My boss was an absolute lunatic, i.e. me. There were no days off, 18-hour days. You know, in sickness and in health, I was there. And the image that you see on the left-hand side is from our social media. If you read it, it says, you know, 10:17 p.m. on a Saturday night, and I'm celebrating. Like, I'm working on a Saturday night because that's what I thought the right thing was to be doing. But deep down, I knew it wasn't right, and I was literally taking my work home with me, In the middle picture, my old house, we were using it as a storage room, as a warehouse. That's my brother sitting on some chili sauce. And I know a lot of you do this. A lot of you do take your work home with you, especially if you work from home as well. But even if you don't, you take your work home with you. You're working evenings and weekends. When you're on holiday, you're actually still working. And even if you're not physically working, you're thinking about the things that you should be doing, and you can't fully let go and fully relax. And I've been there. I discovered coaching and getting business mentoring through a friend of mine, and all I knew was the life that I had is what I didn't want anymore, and there must be a different way. And when I went to that first coaching session, for me, it was the biggest revelation I'd ever had in my life when it came to business. And I realized the biggest problem in the business was me. It was the way that I was doing things. It was my mindset, the way that I was acting. And so I had to change in order for my business to change. And I promise you, on the way home from my first session, I booked my first 7-day holiday in 7 years. I called my wife and I told her, and I said, look, no laptops. I'm not going to be working. It's just you and me going on holiday. We're going to have drinks, sit on the beach, and we're going to have a great time. And the picture you see on the right-hand side is us out in Greece and enjoying that holiday for the first time. And the reason I'm sharing this with you is because I know what it's like on the other side. I've been there. I've still got my businesses. And the reason I'm coaching is because, as I said, it has such a big, profound impact on my life. I wanted to share what I'm learning with others. And so I qualified to do that. Damien, over to you. Do you just share your story also?
Yeah, thanks, Cooks. So the background on me, for those who don't know me, I've been working in built environment design businesses since 2006, all time-based businesses, managing the back office support function in consulting engineering firms, and later built a consultancy around that. All of the firms that I've worked in were Synergy customers, so we used Synergy in those firms. One little anecdote, I guess, or maybe like an analogy, with all these firms being time-based businesses, what we used to do was consult around how to and build systems around how to make those firms more efficient. And because time is such a finite resource, I want to challenge everyone to sort of think about this as we go through this webinar. And all the widget-based businesses, or the businesses that you guys would specify products for in your designs, kitchen taps or whatever, they're going to be managing their stock in a very deliberate way. They're going to manage everything that they pull in or push out of their business. And if you think of your business as a business that's selling time, not just because it's only that time that you can sell, because obviously you've got your IP that you're selling, it's about the finite nature of it and making sure that you can maximize what you're doing with it. So if a business that sells widgets can do it, or does do it, then have a think about why we should do it as a time-based business, I guess. So in 2017, I moved in over to the UK with my family to bring Synergy into the UK market. And fast forward 6 years now, and we've got hundreds of customers here in the UK, and we've built a great foundation. And now I'm head of partnerships, working with great people like Kooks and the Business Growth Agency, who are equally as passionate about helping architects and engineers run their businesses better. And yeah, really excited to talk about time today because it's a big topic.
Cheers, mate. And yeah, I mean, actually just picking up on what Damien said, I think the reason we connected so well is that it's a genuine understanding and want from us to actually put knowledge and content out there that's going to help people, because we know just firsthand what it's like and how challenging it can be. And so with that being said, actually, before I continue, everyone who's here with us today, your participation in this particular event is what's going to make it, is what's going to make the knowledge sharing, the knowledge that you take in really, really stick. And the way in which you can participate throughout the webinar is by jumping onto the chat box. So when I'm asking for participation, please do respond. Please do put your answers in. If you don't know the answers, just put a question mark or say, I don't know. But the more that you share, the more it will help others, because chances are others are going to be thinking and thinking at least the same things that you're thinking. And when one person contributes, everyone starts to contribute. And it just creates a far more fertile kind of learning experience. So to start off with, answers in the chat box, please. Does anyone know who this particular person is and what they're known for? Just answers in the chat box. Yes, no, maybe, throw a couple of names out there. I can tell you one thing: it's definitely not Usain Bolt. Yeah, Roger Bannister, Uncle Roger. Here's Dan. Yeah, it's Uncle Roger. I love that. I'm going to change his name to Uncle Roger now. But yes, it's Uncle Roger Bannister. For those of you who don't know who Roger Bannister is, he is, as far as I'm aware, the first person to run a mile in less than 4 minutes. Now, the reason that's quite interesting is because up until I believe it was 1954, it was thought humanly impossible for someone to run a mile in less than 4 minutes. The biology is just not there. We're not able to do it. And the scientists of the world, the great thinkers of the world, thought that that was humanly impossible. And then, along came Uncle Roger, who most likely had a cup of tea for breakfast, turned up without much training and managed to run a mile in less than 4 minutes. And that essentially meant the world had changed. There'd been a paradigm shift in thinking. What was once thought to be impossible all of a sudden became possible because one person did it. And the reason this is really important is because oftentimes in business and with ourselves, there are certain stories we're telling ourselves to be true. We believe them to be true, whether it's I'm not a salesperson, I'm not a marketing person, I have no time. But the stories we're telling ourselves, and we believe them to be true, but in actual fact, they're not, until someone else comes along and changes it. And so Roger Bannister, he ran a mile in less than 4 minutes. But the interesting part of this story, the more interesting part of this story, is that I believe his record only lasted 40 odd days, 45 days, and then someone else did it. So think about that. Up until 1954, recorded human history, no one had done it. Roger Bannister did it. And then 40 odd days later, someone else did it. I believe that following 12 months, 20 people did it. And since then, thousands of people have done it. So it's caused a paradigm shift in thinking. And in order for today to work, I'm asking you to be open to changing the way that you think and having your own Uncle Roger moment. I love that. I'm keeping that forever, Uncle Roger. So these are the key areas of frustration that we find across all businesses, whether it's architecture, engineering, design. These are the 4 key areas of frustration we find in all businesses. And the reason I'm sharing this with you is because I want you to know that you're not alone. It's across the board and it continues. So time, what we're covering today. Team, finding the right types of people, hanging on to the right types of people, training them and educating them. Money. So understanding your margins, your cash flow projections, something that we touched upon in the last webinar with Damien. And then finally, marketing. Marketing is a big challenge for a lot of businesses. And essentially, if you don't market your business, you are really a well-kept secret. No one knows about how great you are because you're not really marketing yourself. And Damien and I are putting on a series of events to cover all 4 of these particular touch points, to deliver as much education as we can to start to alleviate some of that frustration. So outside of what we cover here today, I ask you, and I'm sharing with you some actions to take, is to develop your skills in these 4 areas and to upgrade your environment, meaning surround yourself with people who are learning and interested about developing their skills in these areas as well. So it could be coaches, it could be mentors, it could be peer groups, but upgrade your skills in these 4 areas. Now, I love this question, and if you know the answer to it, because you've been to one of the webinars before, or you've coached with us before, please give others a chance for the moment. But let me ask you, and answers in the chat box, please. What is your definition of a business? What is a business? Answers in the chat box, please. What is a business? Question marks also count as participation if you don't know the answer or you're unsure. Thank you, Chantel. Anyone else? I'm fully expecting tons of question marks if you don't know the answer. More question marks. Any others? Or at least a description, a place to fuel and fund life and sustain ambition. Interesting. Not an easy one, this. Okay, so here's our definition of what a business is. A commercial and profitable enterprise which works without you. Now, if you go back to the story that I told earlier about my business, I had an enterprise, but it didn't really work without me. And now with yourselves as architects and as creatives, I also understand that you may not necessarily not want the business. So you may not necessarily want the business to work without you. You enjoy architecture. You studied for almost 10 years to be an architect. It's something that you wish to practice, and that's okay. But the idea is that you almost create yourself a job as head architect or lead architect within your own business. And you get to choose when you practice the architecture rather than having to do it to sustain the business. So if you want to jot this down, for me, it was an absolute game changer, and the brain exploding emoji that you get on your phone, that a business is a commercial and profitable enterprise that works without you. So what is a business coach? Essentially, the unreasonable friend who holds you accountable, brings you back on track to everything that you said you were going to be doing, holds you accountable to your goals, and goes on the journey with you as you start to develop, build, and grow your business. And is business coaching, mentoring, working with anyone right for you? Possibly. If you're the type of person that says, I know, yeah, but then maybe not. Your mindset's quite fixed. You feel like you know what you're doing and you know the answers to the questions that you have, then maybe it's not for you. But if you're someone that says, if you're someone that says, yeah, go on, that sounds interesting, tell me more, chances are it could be right for you because you're open to new ideas, new ways of learning, and new ways of running your business. And as I said here, you can see on screen, learn this and you will win. That's how you're going to grow and sustain your business. So answers in the chat box, please. What is your definition of time management? What is time management? Remember, question marks do count as a response if you don't know a definition. But what is time management? Being in control of what you do and when. Ability to work effectively. Any other definitions? Making every second pay. That's interesting. Having a healthy balance of work and life. Any others? One or two more. What is time management? The ability to manage focus rather than time. That's interesting, Mark. Thank you for sharing that one. So when it comes to time management, what is the challenge exactly that most of us face? Can we really create more hours in the day? Not really, right? Time is finite. We've all agreed that there's 24 hours in a day. We've all agreed to the structure of time, and we all live by that. So time management is not really time management. It's self-management. How do you manage yourself within the time that is available? That's what time management really is. It's self-management. We all have the same amount of time because we've all agreed to this system of time, but it's how we choose to manage ourselves within that framework. And once again, for me, this was quite a big revelation because I always used to say things like, oh God, I've not got enough time. I don't have time to do this. I don't have time to do that. I'm late. I'm this, whatever. But actually, the realization was, as I said earlier on, I was a problem. I wasn't in control of myself and how I was acting within the time that I had available. So how do you build a business that can start to work without you and start to manage your own time? This is the system that we use. Some of you may or may not have seen this before, but we call it the 6 steps to structure your business and to build your business. The first level is basically mastery, removing the chaos in your life, and that includes time chaos. So you want to eliminate the chaos in your life. Then we start to build predictable cash flow in your business so that you can steadily start to grow. Then we start to get efficient in your business, structuring your business for growth, building that well-oiled machine with maybe a few staff members, whether you want to have 3 or 4 staff members or 20, but it's starting to build, develop, and grow that machine. And then finally, you get to the stage where even if you wish to participate in your business as an architect, you also then have the opportunity to grow work on new ventures, property development, buying land and getting planning permission on it, whatever it is that you wish to do. But ultimately, it leads to massive results: time, team, money, and marketing. Damien, I know you wanted to jump in and also add, it was quite interesting when we were talking about this in terms of how synergy actually grows with businesses. Like, you've done this with other business owners and worked on these steps with them, right?
Absolutely. And look, with a system like Synergy, because obviously people on this call are using other systems as well, it's really something that you can use to get you through this, these steps at each stage. And we talked last webinar about the predictable cash flow, understanding what the value of every transaction is in your business, and therefore knowing really what the profit is. And today, I guess we're focusing more around the efficiency piece and using a system that is like Synergy to help with timesheets. But I don't want people to just think of timesheets. I think it's important to note that the timesheet is the core part of a wider system that, when connected, can give you some real power and information for decision making and understanding where you're headed.
And I think, just adding to that, like for everyone to know, these things, and I'll just add this next bit: building a business to work without you with coaching takes 3 to 7 years. And what that means is, you and I sitting here today, you've taken time out of your business to work strategically on the business. Working in the business, you're doing the phone calls, the admin, you're doing the drawings, you're doing all the other bits in the business, not giving you time to work strategically. And even using systems like Synergy takes time, because you build up. You don't go all in and use the entire system straight away, because it takes time to learn how it all works in pieces, and then building up slowly from there. But as we said, look, today we're working on time. We're working on getting time mastery into the business, and then building the steps from there. So this is your first participation exercise. Hopefully you've all got your notepads and something to write down your answers. And for those of you who feel comfortable doing, please do share in the chat box, because as I said yesterday, the more that we share, the more others can relate to what you're saying. But take a few minutes to write down a list of your top 3 time-wasting activities or distractions. What are they? Your top 3 time-wasting activities or distractions. Maybe you work from home. It's family coming in and out, disturbing you, asking if you want to have tea or coffee. Maybe you're in the office and it's office gossip. Maybe it's scrolling on your phone. Maybe it's emails. Top 3 distractions or time.
Amazon delivery.
Amazon, yeah. It's funny, it's so true though. You're in the middle of something and they're banging on the door. You have to go and answer the door. You come back, and then it takes you 10 minutes to get back into the flow of what you were working on. Anyone willing to share in the chat box when you've done this? That'd be fantastic. Fiona, thank you. Emails, calls, and family. So true. And nothing's negative, by the way. Nothing's negative, nothing's positive. It's just we're being quite factual about what's causing you distractions and wasting your time. Anyone else willing to share in the chat box? Complicated project with difficult contractor constantly interrupting my other workflow. That's very interesting. Emails, multiple lines of communication, multitasking. Love that.
I don't know if anyone else has experienced this, but the working from home phenomenon, I guess as well, has changed a lot of people's productivity for the better or for the worse. I know myself, I'm actually more productive at home now. And I think you're going to talk about it, Cooks, is scheduling that time to be productive when you need to be is really important.
Really get onto that. So technology and clients wanting quick replies. Oh, Glenn, a juicy one. The email ping that goes off, and it's all urgent, otherwise the world's going to stop for them, but we know it doesn't. Okay, your second participation exercise, and this is critically important if you are serious about changing how you manage yourself within the time that you have available, because you have to really get to the emotion of what's driving this. Okay, so again, feel free to share if you can. It'd be very much appreciated, but most importantly, write things down for yourself first and foremost. The first question: how does your current time management make you feel? Please write down your answers. Physically take action, write down your answers. How does your current time management make you feel? Does it make you feel overwhelmed, anxious? Do you get angry? Do you get frustrated? Are you totally happy with it? Where are you? How do you feel? What's the emotion? One or two lines at most, but how do you feel? Anyone willing to share in the chat box? Stressed. Thank you, Chantal. It's a common feeling of feeling stressed. Anyone else? How does it make you feel? Constantly catching up, like you're trying to catch your breath, Nick. Thank you.
Hamster wheel. Yeah.
Yeah. Unsatisfied, not hitting the target. Happy and hectic at the same time. Might be worth exploring that a little bit further, Glenn. It's one or the other, right? Normally there's one overwhelming emotion and then there's others. On call 24/7. Okay, next question is, how does your current time management affect the relationship with your family? Now think about this. What I'm talking about is, are you taking work home with you, evenings and weekends? Are you working? Or is it more of a mental thing? Is work on your mind and you're not really able to switch off? Rather than being quite focused on your family when you're with them, is it just kind of getting it done and then off you go? But write down, how does it affect the relationship with your family? I don't spend enough time with them. Very common. I've felt that exact same feeling. Mindfulness, never truly switched off, Ben, yet unable to be in the moment. It's powerful, right? How you're managing yourself is causing you to feel like this with your family, and imagine how they are feeling also. In 5 years, will you be less busy or busier? And it's rarely the same. It's rarely the same. Guilt for not working, guilt for not spending time with the family. That is phenomenal. That's such a powerful one. And this goes back to the paradigm shift in thinking, how can you work towards changing that? But in 5 years' time, are you going to be less busy or busier? Hopefully less busy. Let's see how hope works out. If you get busier and do not change, what is the likely impact on your business, health, and personal relationships? Just jot down the answers to that. Rate out of 10 how satisfied or dissatisfied you are with time management in your personal and business life. 1, super happy, 10, dissatisfied, and at breaking point. I can happily share with you, when I first explored coaching, I was at an 11. I was just at that point where I'd had enough. It feels like being busy, which equals success. Is busyness success? That's an interesting one. Okay, so what is your plan to change and who is going to help you? What is your plan to change and who is going to help you? Initial thoughts and light bulbs that go off in your mind. Who's going to help you change and what is your plan? Because hope, as great as it is, unfortunately, is not a plan. It's very vague. Finally, write down one action you'll take to improve your time and self-management. The critical aspect of this is adding it to your diary. It's one thing saying that you're going to take this action, but when? What day, what time, when are you going to take this particular action? This last one, again, if anyone is happy to do so, please share in the chat box actions that you think you'd like to take. Okay, this handsome chap that you see on screen, it's not Damian's ancient relative, despite how glorious the beard is Vilfredo Pareto, and these are his pea pods. So Pareto in the 1800s was growing peas in his garden, and he realized that 80% of the peas that were being produced came from 20% of the pods. He thought this to be very interesting. He then started to explore this idea and realized that 80% of the land was owned by 20% of landowners. 80% of money was controlled by 20% of the people. And this rule, he found, continued to apply almost absolutely everywhere. So how does this apply to time management? How does this apply to self-management? Well, it's called the Pareto Principle. 20% of effort gives you 80% of your results. Now have a quick think about this and maybe jot this down. 80% of your revenue probably comes from 20% of your clients. 80% of the most effective and efficient work that you do probably comes from 20%. Sorry, 80% of the most effective work that you have comes from probably 20% of the efforts that you're putting in. Now, the reason this is important when it comes to self and time management is, earlier on we were talking about the distractions and the answers that you've started to write down, the emails, admin, contractors, phone calls, having to respond straight away to people that want your time and take your time. But what is your actual daily priority? What is your most impactful 20% that you could be working on and become a non-negotiable in your day? How can you apply Pareto, the Pareto principle, to your day-to-day work? Any light bulbs that go off, jot those down, maybe write the word Pareto and a couple of things. So if you're a single person practice, maybe it is drawing because that's the work that brings in the most money. Perhaps, once a week, your Pareto could be and should be taking a half day out to work strategically on your business, where there's no phone calls, no distractions, no drawings, but you're working strategically to build and grow your business. What is your Pareto? What is your 20%? So this is a classic business owner challenge. Are you wearing too many hats? And does that align with where you want to take your business? Think about what we were talking about earlier and the type of life that you wish to have, the distractions that are getting in the way of that life. Does what you're doing at the moment align with you getting there? Or is it getting in the way? Typically, most people that we coach and that we work with are wearing loads of hats. You're a strategist, the leader in your business. Even if you're by yourself, you're leading yourself. Operations, finance, marketing, sales, admin, HR, and innovation, right? All of it. Out of interest, who's had training, expert level training in all of these different boxes? Just a yes or no in the chat box. Now, I'm a big no. I have not had training in most of these. And in fact, how can you become an expert in all of them? Can't, right? I tried this yesterday, it did work. I like my hat. What are the consequences of wearing too many hats? Answers in the chat box, please. Everyone, love for you to participate. What are the consequences of wearing too many hats in your business? And also ask yourself, why are you doing it? Spreading yourself too thin? Absolutely. What else? What are the consequences of wearing too many hats? They fall off? Absolutely. What else? You end up working at 10:17 p.m. on a Saturday night because you're trying to do everyone's jobs. What else? What are the consequences?
You look a bit silly, just like you.
Yeah. There's this crowning glory. I can't think of, I don't know what a better phrase is, but the phrase that we get taught and we use in coaching is called, you end up being a busy fool, right? You're busy doing so many different things, but probably not to the best of your ability. And there's others out there that could do it way better than you, and it actually gets in the way of your life. So think about your goals. Think about the business that you want in the next 2 to 3 years. And in order for that business and for you to grow to those levels, what needs to change? And how do you need to change? Who do you need in your life? And this could be better planning to start with. If you're by yourself, could be outsourcing systemizing or delegating. But there's many consequences to wearing too many hats. So this is your secret weapon. This is the secret weapon. This is the second tool I'd like to share with you today. Has anyone heard of a default diary? Just a yes or no in the chat box. Yes. No. No. Anyone else? No. 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 Okay, good. 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 I have to admit, for me, when I learned this for the first time, I underestimated how powerful it was, and it took time for me to learn how to use it. Cecilia, yes, love it. I know you know it. I know you know it, Cecilia. And I love it too now. So it's basically time blocking. That's default diary in its simplest form is time blocking. So you make time for regular meeting, priority tasks, strategy and planning tasks. And again, this is where synergy is super powerful because it allows you to understand where and how you're going to be using your time and where you have time available to work on your business. This third one is massively important. Nothing happens that isn't scheduled. If you're using Pareto, if you're understanding what's important to you in life, whether it's family, whether it's anything else that is outside of that does not happen. I'll give you a great example. You know, every Thursday morning, including this morning, my wife and I go for a coffee date. We go to Starbucks, we grab a coffee, sit in the car, drive to the park and just have a coffee and talk. But it happens every single week. It's in the default diary as a non-negotiable, purely because if it wasn't there, we wouldn't make the time to go for a coffee. And it's little things like that that you can start to do to help you bring your time management back to self-management and make time for those people in your life that you want to be there. And this final part is critical. No week, no day is actually default. You need to revisit this at least weekly. So how does it work? A typical week, I appreciate there will be nuances for everyone, but a typical week, let's all play along together. And for those of you that know the answers to this, please let everyone else join in. What's the first thing that we'd need to put in when building our default diary? And remember, question marks count. It lets me know that you're there, you're with me, and you're playing along. What's the first thing that we'd want to put into a default diary when we're time blocking? Eating. Love that. After my own heart there. What else? Eating. What else would go in before eating? Especially if we're thinking about work and our business. Planning time. Nick, okay, expand on that. Anyone else? What else? What's the first thing that's going to go into the default diary? And we coach on this extensively, by the way. That 3 to 7 years that I talked about before, even the most experienced businesses, we still go back and talk about this every session because it's so easy to be missed and not used. Activities that happen at the same time every week, interesting. It's simpler than that, especially if you work from home. It's the start and end time to your day because we as humans, we work very well to deadlines. What time are you starting? What time are you finishing? And then obviously working on the discipline to stick to that, but at least putting it in your default diary. Then we put in personal time. Someone said eating earlier on, gym. But when's the time for you? For me, Thursday mornings, coffee dates. When's your personal time? When's time with your family? When's time with yourself, friends? Then regular meetings. These are non-negotiable, especially if you've got staff. If you've agreed to meet staff and then you keep moving and changing those meetings, what are you telling them? You're telling them that their time is not that important. If you show up on your meetings on time every single week, you're telling them, look, this time is important, you're important, and the conversations we're having are important. So these become non-negotiable in your diary. Your goals. We covered, I think we covered this in goal setting in one of the webinars on goal setting. It's one thing setting goals and making sure they're smart goals, but every week, every day, are you making time to actually work on your goals? Otherwise, you've just got something nice that's written on a document somewhere. But when are you making the time to work on your goals, personal and business? The to-do list. the never-ending to-do list that grows and grows and grows every single day. Travel time. For a lot of you, it could be site visits, client visits, but factoring in the time it takes to go to site and come back, and how often that can eat up massive chunks of our day. Email, the magic email. And especially, you know, with notifications and the dopamine that's being released when you get an email ping, it's so tempting to just respond to them all the time. But actually making time and becoming disciplined around when you respond to emails will show you that the world doesn't end when you do not respond to an email straight away. I promise you, we're still here. And there's people out there who are not responding to emails straight away, and you can do it too. Someone said earlier, but planning your time is absolutely correct. When are you making the time to plan your diary, to work on your week? And finally, blank spaces. You have to have leeway, you have to have space to breathe within your day, because we all know that nothing actually ever goes according to plan. You could get stuck in traffic for an hour, for a 10-minute journey like Damien was this morning. These things happen. So where's the buffer space? So that's the default diary. You can grab a screenshot of this if you wish. And it's a tool for you to use. But if you've never done it before, this is where I'd recommend you start. If you want to make notes of this, your start time and end time, your personal time, regular meetings, goals, and then actually working on your diary. And I think this feeds nicely into Damien and synergy.
Yeah, thanks, Cooks. Yeah, exactly. So what we're going to look at now is just some of the elements of synergy relating to time, starting with the timesheet. And I mentioned it before, synergy really is more than just the timesheet. I think the timesheet is what underpins it, and hence such a big topic for us all. So if you could pop to the next slide, Cooks, that'd be great. So this is the synergy timesheet. You know, most technology that you use around timesheets is going to look fairly similar. It allows you to put time down against a project, against a stage, against a task at a certain rate. And then what that effectively gives you is an understanding of the value of that time in terms of the charge out rate. You can put notes down on things like this. You can put time down on internal projects. I think that's really important to note. It doesn't just have to be on billable projects. It's really important to note what time you're spending on the non-billable components or working on the business. I think that you can then look back at that and understand where you're spending that effort that Cooks talked about with the Pareto Principle. Just click through for me, Cooks. And we also have a timer. Some people prefer to work like this. Some people hate it. The option's there to use it. If you want to time your calls or time the work that you're doing, like clicking a stopwatch, you might be able to race yourself or something. It's there to use as a timer that then populates your timesheet. Next screen.
Just before you continue, I can vouch that I'm way slower than I thought I was. I'm like a turtle, mate. I am so slow at tasks.
There you go. Well, this screen would be really handy for you. You would be able to then see where you're spending most of your time. So the three screenshots we've seen so far, right, for individuals and yourselves as business owners, directors, managers, that's useful for you as well. But this is also something that every single user in the business has at their disposal, so they can understand where their time's going. And that little graph down the bottom is quite interesting because it shows billable versus non-billable hours and in gray your utilization. As a director, that's something that you can then report on across the whole business, which we'll see in a second. But for you yourself to understand where you're spending that time, and if you are a sole practitioner, that's a really important graph because the only time that you're making money on is the billable time. So you need to be quite utilized. It's a handy graph to see where you're spending your time. And potentially as well, the 80-20 rule, you could look at in those donut charts to see, what is the 20% of your time going towards that's giving you the most output or value, for sure. Next one, thanks, Cooks.
Yep.
We've also gamified the timesheet a little bit to create some engagement. We have a leaderboard. So there's an algorithm behind this that allows people to move up the leaderboard as they do their timesheet closest to the hour that was submitted. So this is really important to get engagement. If you've got a team of a couple of staff or more, you're going to want engagement on the timesheet, because you'll see in the next few screenshots how important it is to have all of the correct information. Like any database, it's rubbish in, rubbish out. And this is now starting to get into that sort of what you as a manager might want to see of all your staff. So you've got on the top half of the screenshot there, you've got your timesheets for the last 5 weeks, and you can see where they're missing. Then underneath that, you have your direct reports, and you can start to see where timesheets are missing and expand that down to even where the time was spent on projects and non-billable work, etc. So that's a really handy tool to see who's doing timesheets, who's not, and where they're at. Next one. Now we're getting into the 10,000 foot view kind of stuff. And this is a dashboard that lives in Synergy, produced by Power BI. So it's a visual representation of the utilization across the business. And you can filter that. You can see here I've got 3 different offices filtered down with offices and then teams within each of those offices. You could even get this report by staff, individual staff, if you needed to. So it's showing you how utilized staff are for each month across the business. And as I mentioned, that's really important to understand. The high level view. This is the final screenshot just to show how you can measure performance. And Cook's mentioned it before, but using the data that comes from the timesheets to understand exactly where you want to be spending that 20% effort for that 80% return. And this is at a very basic level, showing you the hours times the charge out rate across the whole business that have been added against timesheets. So it's what we call in Synergy, your charge value. So total charge by transaction date and invoice revenue by invoice date. So in the blue column, if you look at the big graph in the middle, it's total charge value. And in the green column, it's invoiced amounts. We know as a practice that sells time and budgets and budgets for time and effort, you should be, your charge value should be less than your invoiced amounts. So on the months where the blue bar is bigger than, or blue column is bigger than the green column, we've done more work than what we've actually invoiced for. On a fixed fee project, you should be having, you've got a ceiling of what you can invoice. So you shouldn't be putting time down times by the charge out rate that would go over that. So this is a really interesting graph to be able to see month by month across the business how you're tracking with all of that. You can obviously drill down much further because it is transaction based, as we saw in the last webinar. You can get right down to the individual staff, but it's really easy to do that in something like Synergy where everything's connected. Some key takeaways, just on the final slide for me. Obviously, time is everything in your business. It's finite, as we mentioned. You are selling IP, so you can put a value on that as well. And this is probably something that we're challenging you to do, I think, in some ways, is look at the time that exists and see what you can get out of that on top of just selling the hour or just doing the hour of time. Mastering it allows you to focus on selling your IP, exactly what we just said. Use a tool that provides visibility across the whole business, not just on time against a project. You should easily be able to see where your time is valuable, sales, billable, managing, etc. And some of you will have different skill sets or different 20% efforts that bring 80% return to others. So it's really important to be able to understand that, look in the rearview mirror for a little bit and just see where was the most effective time spent, and then where should I look at that in the future. That's really important. A little exercise you can consistently do and manage your calendar with. Time versus budgeted time. Time versus, or time times the rate, which is the charge value, versus the budgeted amounts and invoiced amounts, as we saw in that graph. Understanding the utilization, which can then be used in a calculation to understand efficiency, which is something that I used to do in the practices I worked in. And a clear picture of what your sweet spot is for each person, each team, each business unit, and the business as a whole. So you're going to understand pretty soon what is the best time spent. And it might be, as a practice, you're better off spending time on education projects or hospitality projects or sports projects over something completely different. And you know that that's your sweet spot because you can understand the effort required versus the return on that.
Cheers, mate.
Someone just asked in the chat, what is utilization? It's essentially the calculation involves understanding how much billable time versus non-billable time you have. So your utilization as a resource that is charged out is whether or not you're actually bringing revenue into the business. So someone who is a director, we would say that normally it's about 50% or 60% of your time is utilized. Therefore, on billable projects, you may spend time doing business development, long lunches, meetings, managing teams, etc. Someone who's more junior, even down to part 2, part 3, might be sort of around 90% utilized, depending on what your preference is in your practice. But obviously there's an element of what they do, which can be training as well, that you might have to write off in terms of hours. So it's just about understanding what the sweet spot is for each individual staff, and that can be what they're targeted against, because, it's this whole, in the legal space, lawyers have this whole billable hour target that they have to meet, which I think is unproductive because it's forcing them to do it. But it's good to understand what your utilization is, because the calculation that we did in webinar 1, where you understand what your overhead costs are, is affected by utilization. We can talk about that if you want to book a session at the end of this.
Just and to add to this, before moving on, is if you think about the default diary and blocking time, let's say it's half an hour to look at your data every single week to understand what's your 20%, most effective 20%, what's generating your 80%. But having that consistently in your diary is going to be massively important, because having that data is what we use when we're coaching businesses over years to scale and grow and to understand how to become more profitable over time, because it's compounding effects of micro wins basically that you'd be making, and having data available and then actually using that data on a regular basis is what it takes. I wanted to share with you a final tool, 3 magic words. Not the easiest thing in the world to do, but highly effective, non-offensive, so it's great for us because we're British. These are the words: not right now. You're getting phone calls, you're getting disturbed by family, by friends, you're having people who want your time. If you find yourself saying not right now, it means you're starting to take action. It's a very simple tool, but a powerful one, I promise you, because it buys you time to carry on doing what you're doing and choose when you're going to engage with whatever's requesting your time. Finally, marginal gains, adding on to what Damien was saying, to what I was saying about building your business, building your time mastery over time. Any F1 fans here? Just a yes or no in the chat box. Any F1 fans? Just want to see who's here. No F1 fans. Fine, just me then. No problem. But F1, 20 odd years ago, I think 30 odd years ago, does anyone have any idea how long a pit stop took? Just an answer in the chat box. You guess if you want. Any idea how long a pit stop took 20 or 30 years ago? 30 seconds. Something like that. It was a long time compared to now. Today we're looking at 2 to 3 seconds, right? 30 odd seconds, maybe even a minute 20 or 30 years ago, maybe longer. But today, 2 to 3 seconds. And you think about that, that's a phenomenal change and incredible efficiency, but it's been made with marginal gains over time. It's not happened overnight. So much the same, what I'm asking for you to do is to, first of all, be kind to yourself. These things do not happen overnight. It takes time, effort, and energy to make this thing happen. So don't feel guilty. Don't feel bad. Don't be hard on yourself. Be kind to yourself and know that you're doing your best. And give yourself time. Make time in the diary, but give yourself time. Secondly, do get a mentor or a coach, whether it's me or anyone else. Find someone that you can work with that will act as your mentor or coach, because it's so much easier and it happens so much quicker with someone with you. And take daily actions. Only by taking daily actions are you going to be able to achieve better self-mastery and better time mastery. So as I said at the top of the presentation, part 2 is this. It's a gifted coaching session for you to work on your business, specifically on time. If you want to work on time, it's an hour. So if you're wanting to take action, if you're serious about making changes in your life and in your business, please scan this QR code. I think Damian's just shared the link in the chat box as well. You can register now. It takes a couple of minutes. And we will sit together, either myself, Dan, or Parag. We will sit with you for an hour and work through the challenges that you might be facing in your business right now. Alongside that, Damian is also offering the same. Scan now to book your session. Work with a synergy expert to unlock the time mastery tools in your business. The link is in the chat box also. And the whole idea is that, look, we will talk about your business. If you wish to explore coaching further, of course, we can talk about that, but that's not the primary focus. The primary focus is working on your business and taking the action steps that you need to following this particular session today. Just whilst people are registering and filling in the forms, for everyone else that's not doing that, just answers in the chat box, please. If there's one action that you're going to take following this particular webinar, what is that action going to be? What is the one action that you can take? Oh, I just realized, Damien, those links are not in the chat box. Hang on, I'll just add them there now. Default diary. What are the actions, everyone? What actions will you be taking if you found value in what we were talking about today? The 3 magic words. Default diary. Default diary. I promise you, it's probably the most powerful tool you can have to start to win back time in your life. It's incredible. Limiting email response time. Diary specific with emails. Perfect. Okay, so a slightly different question to this. What about light bulbs? Things that have gone off in your mind that have been a bit of an aha moment, not necessarily that need action, but perhaps have caused a change of thinking. Any light bulb moments or aha moments that you came across? Again, just share in the chat box, please. It'd be very much appreciated. Default diary. Perfect. Okay, so I'm just going to share the links for you again in the chat box. For those of you who are interested, I know they got missed a few times. Oh, sorry, Damien. I'm just trying to find it. Hold on.
I just did then.
Yeah, cheers. That's it for today. And as I said, if you wish to connect on socials, please do. If you've got any questions, fill in the forms. We can answer those questions, both Damien and I, during the sessions that we have together. Damien, would you like to add anything?
No, that's great. I'm really happy with the turnout today as well. Thanks everyone for participating.
Yeah, cool. Yes, the webinar will be recorded and we will email them out to everyone, so you can watch back.
And keep an eye out for the next one.
Yeah, another one coming in a few months' time as well. Thank you, everyone. Take care. Bye.
Bye all.